The rise of employer-sponsored coverage. Some of the first evidence of compulsory health insurance in the United States was in 1915 through the Processive Reform protecting workers against medical cost and sickness in industrial America. Prior to this, within the Socialist and Progressive parties, health insurance and coverage was framed as not only an economic right for workers' health but also as an employer's responsibility and liability health care, which was in this context centered on working class Americans and other than of labor unions. Employer sponsored health insurance plans dramatically expanded as a direct result of wage controls imposed by the federal government during World War II. The labor market was tight because of the increased demand for goods and decreased supply of workers. During the war, federally imposed wages and prices are controlled and prohibited manufacturers and other employers from raising wages enough to attract workers. When the War Labor Board declared that fringe benefits such as sick leave and health insurance did not count as a wage for the purpose of wage control, employers respond with significantly increased offers of fringe benefit, especially health care coverage to attract workers. The tax deduction was laterly codified in the Revenue Act of 1954. President Harry S. Truman, the name, who proposed a system of public health insurance in his November 1945 addresses, he envisioned a national system that would be open to all Americans but would remain optional. Participants would pay monthly fee into the plan, which would cover the cost of any and all medical expenses that arose second form of arise in the time of need. The government would pay for the cost of service rendered by any doctor who choose to join the program. In addition, the insurance plan would give cash to the policyholder to replace wages lost because of injury or illness. The proposal was quite popular with the public, but it was fiercely opposed by the Chamber of Commerce, the American Hospital Association, and the AMA, which denounces it as socialism. Foreseeing a long and costly political battle, many labor unions chose to campaign for employer-sponsored coverage, which they saw as a less desirable but more achievable goal, and as coverage expanded, the national insurance system lost political momentum and ultimately failed to pass using health care and other fringes benefits to attract the best employee. Private sector, white collar employee, nationwide expanded the US healthcare system. Public sector employers followed suit in an effort to complete. Between 1940 and 1960, the total number of people enrolled in health insurance plan grew seven-fold system from the 20,662,000 to 142,033,4,000, and by 1958, 75 of Americans had some form of health coverage. By 1976, 85.9% of the employed population 17 to 64 years of age has hospital insurance, while 84.2% has surgical insurance. Care-Mill Act. Still, private insurance remained unaffordable or simply unavailable to many, including the poor, the unemployed, and the elderly. Before 1965, only half of seniors had health care coverage, and they paid three times as much as younger adults. While having lower income, consequently, interest persisted in creating public health insurance for those left out of the private marketplace. The 1960 Curl-Mill Act provided matching funds to states assisting patients with their medical bills in the members' expenses at a single hospital. As like Baylor's Hospital, it is also the forerunner of today's Health Maintenance Organization, which is HMOS. In 1935, the decision was made by the Roosevelt administration not to include a large-scale health insurance program as part of the new Social Security program. The problem was not an attack by any organized opposition, such as opposition from the American Medical Association, that derailed Truman's proposal in 1949. Instead, there was a lack of active popular congressional or interest group support. Roosevelt's strategy was to wait for a demand and program to materialize, and then, if he thought it popular enough, to throw his support behind it. His Committee on Economic Security deliberately limited the health segment of Social Security to the expansion of medical care and facilities. It considered unemployment insurance to be major priority. Roosevelt assured that the medical community that medicine would be kept out of politics. Jaap Koiman says he succeeded in pacifying the opponent without discouraging the reform. The right moment never came for him to reintroduce the topic. From the most of states, and some states adopt them with little or no change. However, with the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, effective since 2014, federal law have created some uniformly in partnership with the existing state-based system. Insurers are prohibited from discriminating against or charging higher rate for individuals based on pre-existing medical condition, and must offer a standard set of coverage. California. In 2007, 87 of Californians had some form of health insurance. Services in California range from private offering HMO PPO to public program medical Medicare and Healthy Family HCHIP. Insurers can pay providers a capitation only in the case of HMOs. Now, in the beginning of this act from California, which is California developed as a solution to assist people across the state and is one of the few states to have an office devoted to giving people tips and resources to get the best care possible. California Office of Patient Advocate was established in July 2000 to publish a yearly health care.